So, Deleg, you asked about what conclusions we might be able to draw from the results of the Memphis case as it pertains to the other cases still out there, and what kind of timeline we're looking at. What did you find out?
So yeah, there's a few more notable things here. The timeline. Let's deal with the timeline first. My understanding, and I don't have this as 100%. My understanding though is next should be Kansas, and then Louisville. Maybe Louisville will jump because Louisville, having the Chris Mack stuff folded into its IARP case, has made the timeline of the Louisville case a little bit cloudy. Maybe it'll be next. Maybe it'll be last. But Louisville's been done. It's had its hearing. I expect that to come before the end of the year, and then. I think Arizona and then LSU are the final two. An NCAA liaison with the IRP was on earlier today on this call, and he said in his words that this will not wrap until, this was Derek Crawford, VP of Hearing Operations. He said, quote, late spring, early summer of 2023. He also said two schools haven't had their final hearing. I believe that is LSU and I think it's Arizona. Those two are still waiting on all of that. So my projection of this is that over the college basketball season that's to come, we will have news about Kansas and Louisville come down in the middle of the season. We will hop on and do an emergency podcast about those schools as the season's going on. Maybe we get one of those before the season starts, and I certainly would welcome welcome the IARP to get this done as quickly as possible. But at least one school, and I would guess it's LSU, is going to not get its news until after this season ends. And I guess potentially Arizona and Sean Miller, it might be the same. So keep an eye on that. I know everyone wants this done as soon as possible. Again, the IARP will dissolve once those cases are all adjudicated, and we will go back to an NCAA-only Committee on Infractions, recently updated yet again for like the fifth time in 15 years kind of model. That's going all back to in-house with the NCAA. This is out. They've outsourced this, and schools might come to rue this day if indeed the Memphis case is a harbinger for what's to come with the other cases. Now, as for the other cases, I did ask about that as well because, Hugh Frazier did mention that they were conscious of the fact that they did not want to punish the current student athletes at Memphis, the current players on the team. And so I asked, was that, approach specific to this case, or might it be something that the panel could quasi-adopt and apply to future cases? Frazier was specific in saying it might be that we have no application of every case going forward, meaning just because we did this with Memphis doesn't necessarily mean we'll think the same way when we're talking about Kansas or Arizona or Louisville. All of those cases, yes, they're under the FBI umbrella. All of them are different. Kansas has 5 level 1s facing it. Then again, Memphis just had 4 of them, and it just got tossed away. So, but Memphis wasn't an FBI case. I don't know. Kansas still has its head coach there. Arizona doesn't. LSU doesn't. Louisville doesn't. So none of these cases, there are no 2 remaining cases that are exactly alike. That being said, athletic directors, NCAA, commissioners, coaches, fans, they're not going to care about that. They're just going to see these are all the FBI cases. We want to have consistency across the board. I'll be interested to see when these come down, if we do have consistency, if we do have, any major sanctions come down. I cannot tell you right now that if you are a fan of Kansas or Arizona or Louisville or LSU, that if you saw the Memphis news here on September 27th, that it automatically means good things for I can't promise you that, but things could be worse. If Memphis got absolutely hammered, I would say you need to be wary given the facts of this case. They went light on them. What's your thoughts on and I'm not going to ask you predictions because we don't know, but expectations and where you think we go from here with the remaining 4 cases?
I have no expectations, no idea. I've been consistent on this. I'm out of the prediction business when it comes to punishments. They're wildly inconsistent. You can't take anything as a precedent. Sometimes they make sense. Often they don't. Like, why does Oklahoma State get a postseason ban but South Carolina doesn't? Like
Right.
it's
Yeah.
just stuff like that.
Boynton tweeted a
Right.
Oklahoma State's coach Mike Boynton actually tweeted a clown face earlier today.
Yeah. Like I mean,
Tweeted our own Kyle. He quote tweeted KB Kyle Boone and
strong jaw. Yeah, I'd be.
did you put that up yet? I think did you. What did he say on that? I just love the fact that a head coach is like going on social media. Just
what's outrageous? Like, if you're Mike Boynton, I mean, I'd be furious too. I mean, I would be
parody
like of all of the stuff that's going on. We're the ones that got the postseason ban. Like it's crazy. And so I never predicted, and you get asked about this stuff all the time.
Yeah.
I never predicted what Memphis would get or what Kansas will get because I don't have any idea. I am surprised that it was this light for Memphis, but I never said they're definitely getting this, they're definitely getting that. I don't know. Nobody does. But I will say, if you asked me if I were a Kansas fan, would I be more optimistic than I was today? Yeah, I think so. And it's the main reason is because you have now had people connected to this process on multiple times publicly say that in one form or another they are hesitant to punish student athletes who had nothing to do with this. That was said today. It's been said before. And if that is really a guiding light for these IARP cases, well, there's literally no way to implement a postseason ban without punishing student athletes who had nothing to do with it. It's impossible to do. And if
correct, but the way you get ahead of that is if you say it's going to be a year from now. So, if you want in, it's going to be your decision. That's the only way that you can do it and have minimal, I guess.
Yeah, but like you would still be punishing somebody who had nothing to do with it. You would give them an out. They would have an out. Right. But if they chose to stay, you would be punishing somebody who had nothing to do with this. And you got to remember when it comes to college students, these aren't just basketball players. These are like real people. I know that people love to talk about the transfer portal. Most people don't want to transfer. It's complicated. You lose some credits. You lose some friends. Maybe you have a girlfriend or a boyfriend on campus that you don't want to leave. So just because somebody has an out to leave doesn't mean it's in their best interest to leave. So if you implement a postseason ban, you're going to punish somebody who had nothing to do with this. And if it is really a guiding principle of theirs that they don't want to do that, and they have certainly suggested that multiple times recently, then if I'm a Kansas fan, I feel pretty good right now, or at least better than I otherwise would. Because I've long been a believer that I don't want to say scholarship reductions don't matter and being taken off the road doesn't matter, but anything short of a postseason ban, you can work around. Anything short of a postseason ban, you can keep your program running same way it's always been running.
Yeah, postseason ban's the biggie. The only other IARP decision that came before this one was last December. NC State, they got 1 year worth of probation. Orlando Early, a former assistant who then became an NBA scout, he got a show cause of 5 or 6 years. Mark Gottfried, the former coach, got a 1 year show cause, and that goes back to according to evidence that was shown in court and in testimony. I mean, you literally had money bag drops at doors tied to the Dennis Smith Jr. case. So the issues in that case, I think were not more. I know they were just plainly more egregious than the Memphis one. And NC State, again, they didn't have no one on staff remained, but they didn't get a postseason ban. Yes, you did have show causes handed down by the IARP. All the other ones have been NCAA cases. I mean, the Oklahoma State one, that was a 1 year postseason ban that just got served. Lamont Evans got a 10-year show cause, and Oklahoma State's still on probation with that. But other schools like Bruce Pearl sat for a couple of games. They're on probation right now. Chuck Person got a lengthy show cause when that happened. Lamont Evans got a show cause tied to the South Carolina stuff at South Carolina. The Oklahoma State, South Carolina, so I'll never understand. Having sat in that courtroom, watched everything, listened to all the testimony, I'll never understand how Oklahoma State and South Carolina were so different, because Lamont Evans was at both those universities, and some of the stuff that he did while at South Carolina and was caught surreptitiously on video saying was just as bad as the stuff he was caught doing in Oklahoma State. I digress. Other ones that were NCAA, and remember, this is not IARP, this is NCAA, just a refresher for our listeners. Creighton, USC got a 2-year probation period. TCU got a 3-year probation period. Former assistants got show causes at all of those schools of varying lengths there. So there will be, I would think that the IARP will hand down show causes to affected parties only because at the NCAA level and the IARP level, as it pertains to the FBI cases, not Memphis now, as it pertains to the FBI cases, literally Oklahoma State, Alabama, Auburn, South Carolina, USC, Creighton, TCU, NC State, all schools enveloped by the FBI case. All of them had former staff members handed show causes down. Now, that does not all are postseason bans. Not all head coaches served for 10, 15, 20 game suspensions. Bruce Pearl had a light one. So I do think that there will be punishments coming. But I remember I want to hold myself accountable here. I remember being definitive multiple times on this podcast thinking that Kansas would face a postseason ban. I'm not as confident today in that as I have been previously, based in part on the IARP decision with Memphis here. But I just wanted to at least refresh listeners on every single school that was roped into the FBI stuff. Like, there have been, some punishments handed down and some, you can't come and coach. You got to show us cause why you should be able to coach again in college athletics. That has happened. Lengthy ones too, 5 years, 10 years. So I still think some tough stuff is coming for all those schools. The question is, though, will Bill Self have to sit a game or 5 or 10 or 15? Will Kansas be permanently eligible for every postseason moving forward? Same with LSU. Will Wade's not there. I had a source tell me in recent days that Will Wade's feeling a little bit more optimistic about the nature of his case and how it pertains. God bless him, right? So we'll see. And the IRP, which is going to dissolve next year, Parrish, we might be talking about this next spring, look back at all these cases and be like, they basically did their job. They kind of went through the motions, but it looked like they just kind of threw their hands up. We're like, all right, we're good. That's definitely an outcome that could be on the table here. We wait and see. It's just hard for me to square Oklahoma State getting a postseason ban. And maybe if none of the other schools do, they don't. But OSU was far from the most deserving school to get that kind of a sanction there. So we await on what's next. I think it'll be Kansas that's next in line. We'll see if that comes before the season starts.
One last thing before we get out of here, Jonathan in the comments, and I only address this because I've seen multiple people make this point. He says, wasn't Penny at the courthouse with James Wiseman to get an injunction before the first game? That was actually before the second game. So the timeline is important. Wiseman played in the first game while ineligible, but the Memphis story at this point is Penny didn't know. Then the injunction comes before the second game. The injunction, by the way, never meant that Memphis had to play James Wiseman. Like a federal judge is not in charge of creating your starting lineup. He can't make you put somebody in a game. So they could have not deemed James Wiseman ineligible. That's what the NCAA asked them to do. We believe he's ineligible. You need to declare him ineligible and then seek reinstatement. Memphis just said double birds. We're playing him. But the injunction never made Memphis play James Wiseman. That's just not true. They played him because they wanted to. Here's my point. And again, I'm not going to fight. I'm happy that Memphis did not get a postseason ban. I would not want to talk every day about a team headed nowhere. But, all of this unfolded in real time. And Penny Hardaway was asked questions about the decision to play James Wiseman, why he did it, what he knew, what he could talk about, what he couldn't, all along. And never once did he say, listen, I didn't know he was ineligible. He never said that.
Yeah.
If people were questioning, let's say I'm the head coach and I just played a player and he's deemed ineligible and people are asking me, why did you play him? I'd say, truth is I didn't know. I found out after the game. That's the story now. But that was never the story then. It was just about doing right by the kid and we didn't think he did anything wrong. And it was never, I didn't know. Far as I can tell, that explanation didn't become an explanation until the lawyers got involved. And so it's just good lawyering. It's very good lawyering. They said, hey, we can maybe save your program and your head coach, but we're going to have to make your athletic department look ridiculous. And they said, okay, let's do it then. And it worked. Congratulations. But that's what it is.
Yeah, that's good day. Good day for Memphis. Good day for GP. Have an active radio show here. A lot to respond to here beyond just the Eye on College Basketball podcast. That's pretty much all I got, though. I mean, this is